Why is Turkey not fixing its hyperinflation problem? The 2018 to 2022 Turkish currency and debt crisis is an ongoing financial economic crisis in Turkey. This crisis is characterized by the Turkish lira's value plunging high, resulting in high inflation, soaring borrowing costs, and accordingly corresponding with rising loan defaults. The main reason behind the existence of this crisis was the Turkish economy's excessive current account deficit with large amounts of private foreign currency-denominated debt. This crisis was added up by President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan's high and superfluous authoritarianism, accompanied by his unorthodox ideas about interest rate policy. According to analysts, the leveraging effects of the geopolitical frictions with the United States, along with the enforcement of tariffs by the Trump administration in 2018 on some Turkish products like steel and aluminum, are contributed to the high inflation. This crisis was prominent through various waves of major depreciation of currency, where the later stages were typified by corporate debt defaults and tightening of economic growth. When the inflation rate of Turkey struck the double digits, recession followed. Hello and welcome to Economic Stories. Join our channel by hitting the subscription button, and don't forget to press the bell icon so that you don't miss any awesome content from us. Even before the pandemic, the Turkey government was trying to ward off financial meltdown as it struggled to overcome its mountainous debt, sharp losses in the value of the Turkish lira, along rising inflation. The crisis has accelerated as a result of the stupid step taken by President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, where he doubled down on his unorthodox policies. The proof of Turkey's devastating economy was all around. Long lines of the general public were seen outside discounted bread cabins. Not only of food, but also the prices of medicine, milk, and toilet paper started soaring. Some gas stations were forced to shut down after draining out their stock. Angry outbursts began erupting on the streets. To add to the already going on crisis, the annual inflation reached a staggering rate of 36%, up directly from 21% as reported. A very recent report had stated that the slow-moving train wreck has sped up with a ferocious intensity, and the main driving foot that pushed the toughest on the accelerator belongs to the country's authoritarian president, Recep Tayyip Erdoğan. In short, it can be said that though Turkey's economic problems are deep-rooted and are going on for the last few years, the most recent crisis is caused by Mr. Erdoğan's. His persistence is dropping the interest rates in the face of hurling inflation, which was exactly the opposite policy of what every economist universally proposed is the main driving force for this ongoing crisis. Mr. Erdoğan, who's ruled Turkey for 18 years, has long battled this particular aching prescription, but his strong determination to keep cutting the interest rates even as the country's inflation rate climbs higher appears to be pushing Turkey's past a tipping point. Customarily, investors and others look to the nation's central bank to keep inflation in check and set interest rates. But Erdoğan has recurrently shown that if Turkey's central banks and finance ministers do not abide by what he wants them to abide by, he will immediately get rid of them. Having already fired 3 in 2 consecutive years, Mr. Erdoğan's impulsive and aggressive pro-growth strategies have worked for him before. Since the beginning of his government in Turkey in 2003, he has increasingly undertaking expensive and exclusive infrastructure projects, courted foreign investors, and encouraged businesses and consumers to load up on debt, and no doubt, immense growth took off. According to a senior fellow at the German Marshall Fund named Kadri Tastan, Turkey was starting to reflect itself to be an economic miracle soon during the first decade of Mr. Erdoğan's rule. Property and scarcity were diminished to half, which led millions of people to swell up the ranks of the middle class, thereby attracting foreign investors who were competing to lend at such high interest rates. And this relentless push to expand the economy became unsustainable and created unitability. The high interest rates fascinated and enticed foreign investors to stick up the risk and keep lending, with a lust for their individual growth and profit. Mr. Erdoğan was unwilling to accept any trade-off and continued supporting cheap borrowing as inflation took off, and the currency's value failed. Still then, even after witnessing the rising inflation, he adamantly continued insisting that high rates of interest will control inflation, knowing very well that only low rates will control the inflation, as it puts money into circulation, which in turn encourages common people to borrow and spend more. The economy seesawed between these contradictory goals until 2018, when growing political tensions between Turkey and the United States caused the value of the lira to topple. This fall in the value of lira forced many businessmen and households who have borrowed money from abroad to sink into bankruptcy. The currency's steep decline led to a rise in the prices of the imported goods. As a result, shortage peeped in, and soon accompanied by unemployment. To prop up the lira, Turkish banks began selling off their reserves of dollars, which resulted in the low dollar reserve. A long and enduring characteristic of Turkey's economy was its low savings rate. Since Recep Tayyip Erdoğan assumed control of the government, Turkey was running with huge losses, along with a growing current account deficit. This deficit formed one of the largest current account deficits in the world. The Turkish economy relied primarily on capital inflows, with which it funded the private sector excess, along with Turkey's banks and big firms borrowing heavily, often in foreign currencies. This crisis culminated a period of scorching economic growth under Erdogan-led governments that was built essentially based on the construction boom, which was in turn fueled by foreign borrowing, alongside easy and cheap credit and government spending. Turkey's inflation clambered to a nearly two-decade high back in December on the back of a diminishing lira. This event in turn led to the driving up of the expense behind food and other basic goods that headed the destabilization of the wider economy. The inflation figures show how the crisis persists and heap up the economic pressure on ordinary Turkish people. According to reports, it has forced some of the general public to settle for subsidized bread. Some had to cut back on meat, and some had to forcefully flee to Europe in search of better food and life. The government's rescue plan for the currency included a new financial instrument that was designed in a way to motivate the general public of Turkey to keep their money in the lira. Instead of investing or buying foreign currency or gold, initially just after the announcement of the plan, the lira mounted a rebound but has renewed its slide since. Turkey's economy has been in chaos since last year, when President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan coerced the central bank into reducing interest rates despite soaring inflation. To add to it, Mr. Erdoğan even took severe steps to fire a series of central bank governors and other top officials who opposed and stood against his unorthodox vision for the economy, which demanded cutting down interest rates to encourage and promote economic growth. Despite high inflation, abiding by the instruction passed by Mr. Erdoğan, the Turkish central government did cut interest rates for the fourth time in as many months in December, bucking a global trend. However, the central banks continued raising rates to contain inflation, which was surging worldwide due to high energy prices and global supply chain issues. With less interest rates and resulting slide in the Turkish lira, the lira lost as much as half of its value last year before stabilizing. This situation in turn triggered sporadic protests by Turks who were struggling with the rising prices. While all emerging and promising well-established economies in the world were taking precautions and stabilization measures, Turkey with its foolish measures continued to fall. This economic crisis has knowingly caused a significant decline in Erdogan's and AKP's admiration, due to which he lost most of Turkey's biggest cities, including Istanbul and Ankara, in the 2019 local elections. According to some independent economists, the government of Turkey has not revealed its true inflation rate. According to another economist and head of the research group named Veysel Ulusoy, the Turkish economy is going to experience deep troubles in the unemployment market, financial market, and real economy for the coming couple of years. However, according to a very recent report, Mr. Erdoğan has stood against this statement and defended his economic policies by saying that the last 2 years' economic data shows Turkey an economic success. He also said that the exports have also increased massively, but however, he's not mentioned the inflation figures. Here comes the end of the video. Make sure to like and share the video and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you soon with another amazing video. Until then, keep watching, keep your families safe, goodbye.